So, this is a feeling I've been experiencing almost my whole life. A feeling that lingers quietly, but grew louder with time, trying to control the things I couldn't control. Trying so hard to bend the universe to my will, gripping tightly into outcomes that were never mine to begin with, and not controlling the things I could have. The irony that ignoring the very things that were in my hand while obsessing those forever out of reach. I was so focused on chasing the things that were always out of my league. Obsessed, really. Focusing on what I could have had, the version of my life that only lives inside my head. I kept asking myself, what if I had been better? What if I had tried harder? Instead of actually fixing the things that I had the responsibility to fix. I felt angry at myself after realizing this, truly angry. Not just a passing frustration, but a deep-rooted rage aimed inward. I thought with that amount of self-hatred, I'd finally move. That maybe, if I hated myself hard enough, I'd change. But no, it didn't work like that. Self-hatred didn't push me forward. It paralyzed me. And the worst part is, while hating myself, I also gave too many excuses for myself. It's a strange contradiction how we can be our best critics, yet be our best enablers at the same time. It's like falling in love with a war. Not a metaphorical one, but an emotional battlefield that never truly quieted. Constantly feeling unsafe, constantly worrying without doing anything, just stuck in the storm of thoughts and guilt and fear, constantly focusing on controlling the things I couldn't while ignoring the things I could. No amount of motivational videos or people giving advices could get me out of this cycle. I watched those videos. I listened, I watched, I nodded, but nothing truly shifted. Nothing truly stayed. I guess that was my turning point. The realization that no one could help me. Not in the way I was waiting for. Nothing was going to save me but me. Not a friend, not a mentor, not some miracle timing. The right time would never happen. The right person would never come to get me out of the cycle, to drag me out of the cycle. They could only suggest, they could only watch, maybe support, but taking action had always been my responsibility to fix. I can't just wait for someone else to take action for me. Well, after that, I tried to let go of the things I couldn't control. It wasn't graceful. I struggled a lot. It wasn't quick, but it was honest at least. And I started to focus on the things I could have controlled. Not everything all at once. Maybe just small steps. Baby steps. I still found myself back in that cycle more often than I wanted to. So that hasn't magically disappeared. I still fall, I spiral, I freeze, but at least now I could give myself a reality check. I could give myself some sort of awareness. I recognize the pattern now. I see it for what it is. And that awareness, that alone, feels like a progress. It's sort of like a quiet strength, quiet kind of strength that I never knew I needed. So for this experience, I made this illustration, made in Ibis paint. This illustration is a visual representation of something that's been with me for as long as I can remember. A feeling I couldn't name at first, but one that shaped the way I saw myself, my efforts, and its passing time. At the center is a character that was supposed to represent me. She's sitting, quiet, lost in thought, holding a Rubik's Cube. She looks calm, maybe even numb, but there's a weight behind her expression, and that weight is frustration, quiet despair, exhaustion from trying too hard at the wrong things for too long. The cube symbolizes everything I kept trying to fix that wasn't fixable. Other people's action, time, outcomes, approval, perfection. I kept turning it over and over, trying to force it into place, hoping that somehow, if I just tried hard enough, everything would align. It's the thing I kept turning over and over again, thinking if I just pushed myself a little harder, if I just figured out the right combination, everything would finally fall into place, that I'd somehow fix the situation, fix myself, or fix the past. But it never worked. No matter how long I tried, how many times I twisted it, it just wouldn't align. Because what I was trying to fix wasn't broken in the way I thought. Or maybe it was never mine to fix at all. And surrounding her is a room filled with subtle yet deliberate details. You'll notice the clock on the wall. They're all missing numbers. That wasn't a mistake. I wanted to show that time, for me, became something blurry. The usual rhythm of hours and days didn't feel real anymore. When you're emotionally stuck, when you're caught in this endless loop of overthinking and avoiding, time loses its meaning. It stops feeling linear. You're just there, waiting, spinning, hoping for something to click, but everything remains still. Then there's the calendar pages, some showing the 13th, some showing the 14th, some stretched out, others still pinned. That's to show the confusion of it all. The way life kept moving on, one date after another, but I wasn't really living in any of them. I didn't know what day it was. I was emotionally absent, there in the body, but not really present. The boxes and papers scattered across the floor aren't chaos. They're the result of avoidance. Half-finished plans, abandoned ideas, unwritten thoughts. They've been sitting there for who knows how long, gathering dust while the girl kept twisting that same unsolved cube. Scattered across the floor are Lego blocks, and I want to talk about those. They're small, simple, colorful, and yet in the middle of all that frustration, I ignored them. I placed them in the scene to represent the things I could have worked on, the things that were actually in my control. Unlike the Rubik's Cube, Lego come with instruction. You can follow the steps, you can build something real, something visible. They're not always perfect, but they're progress. That's what I had and choose to overlook. I was so focused on solving the Rubik's Cube that I didn't even glance at what was already possible for me. I had all the tools, all the materials to make something, anything out of my life, but I kept looking away. I thought that finishing the complicated thing was more meaningful, that maybe if I solved the hardest puzzle, it would somehow mean more than building something simple that has instructions over it. I kept choosing the unsolvable over the achievable because part of me thought that if I could just solve the hardest thing, then maybe I'd finally be worth something. Maybe then I'd prove to myself I wasn't lazy or broken or failing. But the truth is, self-worth doesn't come from struggle alone. It comes from alignment, from choosing to invest your energy into what truly matters, not what's just emotionally familiar. And sometimes the hard truth is that emotional chaos can feel familiar. I think in a way I had become addicted to it, addicted to the war in my own mind. I kept returning to the Rubik's Cube again and again. Like maybe this time I'd get it. Maybe this time I'd finally control the uncontrollable. But all I did was exhaust myself. The Lego blocks were right there all along, but they didn't feel dramatic enough. They didn't feel like they proved anything, and so I ignored them. Even in the end, the character doesn't quote-unquote win. They don't solve the cube or finish the Legos. But maybe they're finally starting to look in the right direction. And I think that's where the catharsis lives, not in the resolution, but in the shift.